If you always get caught in some news events in your trading and you don't know how to understand news, you don't know what you need to look for, don't hesitate to stick to this video because I'm gonna explain you step by step how to analyze news events and as well how you can trade them and when you should avoid trading them. So first of all, we need to understand where you need to find your news events, because if you don't know even where to look for them, it's not gonna do well. So first things first, you need to go on forexfactory.com/calendar because this is the easiest calendar to understand. They have all the news and we're gonna explain you how this calendar works. There's multiple other ones, but the one that a lot of people are using is Forex Factory's one, so we're gonna use that one for this video. So as you can see right here, when you arrive to the Forex Factory calendar page, you have a lot of things going on. So just let's explain them step by step so we can understand at the end of this video how to filter news and how you need to decide when it's important to avoid trading and when you can actually trade them. So first things first, let's go from the left to the right, and as you can see right here, we have the dates. So for example, right now we are in August. This is the week that I'm currently in. Right now we are Friday, August 8th. If you want to see any other week, you can just click on this and it's gonna show you any other week, as you can see right here. But it's not really important, just make sure to know which week you're actually looking at so you're not gonna get caught in another week. Except for that, exactly right here, as you can see, you have as well the time that you are in. So basically you do have a time zone on top. Right now this is my time zone right here, so GMT -4. So I have my right time zone. Usually it's automatic. If it's not automatic for you, please just put your right time zone. That way you're gonna have the right news event at the right time for you. Then the next thing right here, you have the date of the release. So usually we have releases every single day. When there is nothing during one specific day, it's just gonna say nothing, but in this case usually we have a release every single day. So you have the dates, like for example Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc., with the date right here. Then you do have news events on all major currencies, like for example AUD, GPY, CHF, Euro. Basically all the currencies that you can trade will have some news events according to them. Why? It's because news events are actually the macroeconomy. It's the fundamental analysis of what's going on with the currencies, with the economy of every single country. So this is why we do have news events for all currencies, as we have all different economies around the world. So right here, this is the economy of the release of the news event. Like for example, right here we can see that on Sunday it was the bank holiday for the AUD. So that means, for example, that the volatility and the volume on AUD pairs will be lower, as during a bank holiday you don't have that much money injected in the market. Then when you understand that right here you have your currency, right here you have the dates basically and the hour of the news release. Like for example, if we go to the next week exactly right here, we can see that, let's say on Monday for me at 5 AM I'm gonna have some Euro news that will be released. Then as you can see right here, we have the impact. This is actually really important. This is the most important thing that we're gonna be looking for. So as you can see right here, we have multiple colors. So basically we have the yellow folders, the orange ones, and the red folders. The yellow folders are the news events that are not important. So basically it's the lowest impact news that we call it. The orange one are the medium impact and the red ones are the high impact news. So when you're looking at the news release, there's a lot of news, right? But the ones that we're gonna be focusing on are actually only the high impact news, aka the red folders right here. Because other ones, yes, it's gonna move the market a little bit, but you're not gonna like see all of them being released, and the market will not be affected that much by any other news except for the red folder ones. So that's why what you can do to just see the red folders is go right here in filter and uncheck, for example, the orange folder and the yellow one. You can keep the orange one because sometimes there are like some high impact news in the orange folder sometimes, but usually that doesn't really happen. So you can just stay with the red ones right here and then apply filter, and now you have only the major news. Right here you have what is the actual news that will be released with the name of every single news. If you want more detail about what's the news, what it's gonna do, what's the impact on the market, you can go right here on detail and actually click on this little folder, and then it will explain you what is the news, the history of the news, and as well the usual effect, the measures, etc. So basically more data about the news that are gonna get released. There is some high impact news that are more important than others that will cause a bigger change in the market. Like for example, CPI will cause a really big change in the market. It's a really high impact news. As well, we have FOMC or NFP. Other high impact news will move the market, but it's not as bad, for example, as some other ones. Like for example, this one, the prelim customer sentiment is not really that important. So you will find those news affecting the market, but not as much as some other ones. There's still in the red folders, there's still kind of a hierarchy of which news are more important than each other, but those type of knowledge, you will basically see it with your own experience. So basically, for example, with my own experience, I know already that the CPI, the FOMC, when someone is speaking, the, let's say, NFP, unemployment claims as well will move a lot, but maybe some cash rate right here or this conference will not be that important. But if you're a beginner, I really recommend you to still avoid trading during any high impact news, because if you don't know which news will affect what, it's still a good idea to just be safe and avoid trading during high impact news, during those red folders. That way you're not gonna get caught on any slippage or any high volatility. So right here on the right, you have again three other things. You have the actual, the forecast, and the previous. So this will as well affect the market. So if I go on this week right here to see what happened, you see we had a forecast and then we had the actual after the news release. So if you want more details, you can again click on this little folder and right here have the usual effect. So if the actual is greater than the forecast, it's good for currency. So that means that, for example, right here, this is the CHF. And the actual was actually better than the forecast that was in the negative. So this makes the CHF stronger. So for example, if you're trading Euro CHF will push down because the CHF is now a little bit stronger than the Euro at the release. So then you can, for example, see your trades. Let's say, for example, you're trading the USD and it came worse than expected. This is bad for the US dollar. So that means that Euro USD will most likely push up. You have as well the previous exactly right here. So if you want to like have an overall idea what was the previous month's results, so same thing, if you click right here, have the history of all the previous results, so that way you can as well adjust yourself from it. But to be honest, I'm not really looking at the previous. Some other people are analyzing everything, but what's most important is really the actual in the forecast, because it's really here that we're gonna see if it's bad for the currency or if it's good for the currency, and we can adjust our trades accordingly. As well, same thing guys, don't 100% overthink about news events, because sometimes even if it's bad for the currency, it will push up. So at the end of the day, we don't really know for sure. The only thing, if for example we have a bunch of news events, let's say we go on the previous week and we have a bunch of news events that are all in the red at the same time or pretty much the same, this is a combination of bad results, and those results will most likely be the same one as in the market. But if we have mixed results, so for example one green, one red, the market won't really know what to do with those results, and it just might not really respect the news release. But if you're looking for the macroeconomy and the fundamental analysis, you do need to understand what's the release of every single news, because that can actually affect your trades on the longer term. So now I'm gonna explain you what you need to do when you have a news release. So like I said, you do need to not trade news events. However, I'm gonna tell you one quick tip that I'm usually doing for my news events. So for example, let's say that I am in a trade. Okay, so let's say I am in a trade, I am in a buy exactly right here, and the price is at break even, and I'm gonna be expecting, let's say, a high impact news. On Friday, on the previous week, we had NFP right here. There is a really high impact news that can completely destroy the market. If I show it right here for you what NFP did on the previous week, you're gonna see how bad it is. So basically it was exactly right here. You see 8, this is the moment of the release, and this is how it reacted. So you see it's a huge candle. So this is why I don't recommend trading news, because if you're caught in the wrong side of the market, this can cause huge losses. But let's, for example, see what you can do if you are already in a trade. So first of all, you need to see what is the news events. If it's a really high impact news like NFP, CPI, FOMC, a speech, or something like that, you do need to just close the trade. It's really recommended to close the trade. If you are any other high impact news, and we have two scenarios. If it's at break even, so let's say you're traded, it's at break even, so basically your trade is here and it's just at break even, close the trade. It's not worth it to actually hold the trade during the news. If it spikes down, you will cause slippage, it will give you a really bad result. If the trade is in profit and it's kind of far away from your stop loss, what you can do is just secure the trade by placing your stop loss to break even. So basically your stop loss, you bring it to break even. That way, even if the trade with the release just crashes down, you will still get stopped out at break even, maybe lower because of the slippage, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna lose that much money. And if in the other direction the news is actually pushing to the upside, you will be in profit. But you need to understand, if you're choosing that option, the trade can really just reverse on you, and you might end up in a loss even if you put your stop loss to break even, because it's never guaranteed during a high volatility impact news that your stop loss is gonna get triggered. No matter where you're trading, it's because the high volatility will cause slippage. And this is why you do need to be really aware that you need to close the trade before the high impact news. This is actually the safest option. But if you do want to hold your trade, place at least your stop loss to break even. Or what you can as well do, it's placing your stop loss to break even and take some partials out. That way, this profit will cover the loss if, for example, you have an eventual one. So that way you're out with basically no losses. But at least either close the trade here for, let's say, a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, 1-to-2, or place your stop loss to break even, or if it's at break even, just completely close the trade. Some people will try to predict high impact news, their results, and they're gonna try to gamble. For example, they press and buy and sell at the same time, or for example, they're gonna try to trade news events for having quick gains, because of course, if you trade this news event right here and you enter a buy just before the release and somehow it pushes in your direction, you might have a really huge gain, like for example a 1-to-10 in 1 minute. But that's just gambling, guys. Please don't do that. This is really high risk trading. And imagine this just pushes in the opposite direction. So let's, for example, you entered a sell right here, your stop loss was right here, and the news release pushed up. Basically, instead of risking 1%, you might have lost 5. So you don't want that, you know, that will completely blow your account, and you really don't want to risk it with high impact news. Like I said, for any other news events like orange and yellow folders, honestly, you can just trade it like usually. You don't need to actually close your trades before those. But for high impact news, aka red folders, really be careful. As well, be careful with the prop firm rules that you're trading. Like for example, on For Traders, there is some rules for the master accounts for basically when you get funded about news events. That is, you cannot open 5 minutes prior a high impact news or 5 minutes after a trade, or close a trade within that window. If you opened it before and you hold your trade during the high impact news and it somehow gets closed, but you opened it before, it's fine, because basically you didn't trade the news. We just want to avoid those high risk takers, basically, that I was explaining, that just entered buy or sell before the news release and pray for the best. And a lot of other prop firms have the exact same thing, so please be careful with that. But if you're not risking everything during the high impact news and not opening a trade 5 minutes before before or after. Like usually no one is doing that. If you have a good risk management, you will be good to go, but really be careful with that. You don't want to be caught in those type of things. As well, this rule about the 5 minutes after and 5 minutes prior only applies when you get funded. It doesn't apply for the challenges. So for the challenges, you can actually do whatever you want for your news events, but again guys, I really don't recommend you to try to pass a challenge with news. It's too risky, and at the end of the day, it's just way too bad for your capital. So that's it guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to tell me as well what do you think about news events in the comments, because a lot of people still try to trade news events without any stop loss as well. I've seen some crazy things, but yeah, what do you think about news events? Do you think it's a good idea to trade them? Do you think it's a good idea to avoid them? What are you personally doing with your news events? And don't hesitate as well to like, share, and subscribe to For Traders if you enjoyed this video. If you learned something, for example, about Forex Factory, how to understand news, or even the little technique of what to do before a high impact news. So guys, don't hesitate to do everything, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna see you soon for another episode of Koshkah'S Academy of Trading really soon.